Holy moly, y'all. Today we are joined by not only one, but two of our dream guests. You love these icons from watching them star on Broadway in shows such as Dear Evan Hansen, Waitress, Book of Mormon, and even currently in Parade. Soon you will get to see them on the big screen in a theater loving film with their new brilliant comedy, Theater Camp. It is my honor to welcome to take a bow Ben Platt and Noah Galvin. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Oh my god, you guys don't know how excited I am about this. Okay, been wanting to talk to you guys on this for so long. Ever since I started, I started with a guest. I like a list. I told this to Rachel Bay Jones, who was my mom and Pippin, and I was like, you and Ben were at the top. And she was like, "Oh, Benny, I love Ben." So I'm so excited to talk to you guys today.
And then she was at the hospital with Noah too on The Good Doctor.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
my god, yes. Oh
she
Tried
my
to
took
god.
over.
overturn it,
She
right?
took over our hospital. It was very dramatic there for a
I
little while.
totally forgot she was on that. Oh my god. And now, yeah, both of you guys are just, movie stars, Broadway stars, TV stars, all the things, you name it. You guys can do it all, and this is going to be a treat. So, the way I usually like to start these things is just starting from the beginning. Like, why are we here? Why are we in this industry? How did we, what inspired you guys to want to tell stories and entertain others?
Well, we have had similar backgrounds in that regard, but just on opposite coasts. I grew up on the West Coast, and my whole family loves musical theater. My dad's in the business, and I grew up listening to show tunes and Broadway all the time. I was sort of like an empty case that was filled with show tunes from birth. And my siblings all did youth theater, so naturally I wanted to do what they were doing. So I did like a youth musical theater program and just fell in love with it and got bit by the bug, like arguably even harder, and started working professionally as a kid when I was like 9 years old. So it's been a fun 20 years. We're very old. And it just always was like the happiest, most open, connective time for me was when I was working on something or singing or performing or acting or writing, just anything creative and expressive. I find that helps me. I am generally pretty introverted person and can have difficulty projecting and communicating, as Noah will attest. And so uh, definitely I knew before I even had the autonomy, I just knew that like the only place for me was in this biz. What about you, Noah?
I'd say it was fairly similar. I think what you said about your siblings is right. That we both had older siblings who were doing this, um, and I really just wanted to like hang out with them. I really just wanted to like be around them. My sister's 7 years older than me. My brother's 4 years older than me, and so I was very much like the little brother who would tag along and just sort of show up. But I think my parents very much instilled a love for like pretty much everything artistic in our family. Um, I was recently hit up by a friend who now has a clothing line who was like, we did pottery together when we were four. And
Oh my god.
I didn't know I did pottery. But I think there was like a big onus put on just like stretching ourselves creatively and expanding ourselves. And my parents really, wanted us to like find our passions at a young age and really facilitated that process. And theater for me just very quickly became the thing. Um, I remember like my sister being in like middle school musicals, and I would beg my dad to like take me to the rehearsals so I could like sit in the back of the theater and just like watch because I was like addicted to it. I loved it. I just wanted to do it all the time and be around it all the time. And we're still there.
I know. It's so great to hear that, like we all started at like a young age, and none of that could be possible without the support from parents. And, not every person that loves theater gets that. So we've kind of been very fortunate enough to do that. And I mean, with theater camp, especially like, driving an hour or sending your kid away, like that's a very hard thing for parents to do.
Yeah.
And, so not you can't be like a child and start young in this industry unless you have that kind of support system. Even when you're an adult, it really does take a village in this industry.
Amen.
um yeah. So I've got to talk to you about Dear Evan Hansen because you guys both were in it and it was such a big part of both your lives and careers. Um, so, you know, Ben, you obviously were in Dear Evan Hansen for many years, and then Noah, you came and succeeded Ben in the role of Evan Hansen. So I'm curious to ask you just what that transition was for you two. Like, were you guys able to like work together and kind of collaborate when because there was like no one else played Evan after like before Ben.
Well, what's interesting is at that time, like in that transition was the time that Ben, Nick, Molly, and I sort of like found this little sweet spot where like I was in rehearsals, he was winding down and wasn't as busy as he once was. And Nick and Molly were both in New York, and it was at that moment where we all sort of like decided that we wanted to make something. Um, and so we wrote a short called Theater Camp, and then I hit up our school. Um,
Yes.
I hit up
Period.
Chuck Vassallo, the vice
My king.
principal of my short king, um, PPAS, and I was like, "Give us some kids."
Does everyone on the podcast must know that Eli's in the short, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I've definitely talked about it before.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah, we
right.
went to PPIS, and it was like during that time, that sort of like transitional moment where like neither of us, I think Ben, I was like inundated in my rehearsal process, and Ben was sort of like just trying to remove himself from this behemoth thing that had been much of his life for many years. And it was just like a nice little respite, like us just investing in something else.
I forgot that that's the period where we made the short, right?
Yeah.
Right in that transition. And also, just for any listeners that have drunk the Kool-Aid of false information, we knew each other for many, many years before Evan Hansen. We did not meet because we were both in Evan Hansen. We were already friends.
Yeah, we were already friends.
But I just tried to give Noah space to do his own thing. I mean, I just was supportive in the sense that he was my friend, and I knew in a way that no one else did at that point, other than our friend Colton, who was covering me at the time. Just like what a undertaking it was. So I just wanted to support him and give him as much room to come in and not be hovering, or because I knew it was going to be a hard transition regardless after all that had gone down the year leading up to that. So I just tried to really vacate and give him his own space, and he painted the dressing room a different color and did his own thing.
Oh, I love that. I love the music box dressing rooms, by the way. They're like gorgeous.
Really nice.
I don't. Yeah.
I'm at the Jacobs now, and it is not the same.
It's not as glamorous.
George,
George,
we're freaking out because our salads were just.
Oh my god.
There's a lot going on. We have like window washers going up and down the building, and he like thinks it's some sort of messed up game. Somebody's playing some sort of mind game with him.
If you need to get your salads, go get your salad.
No, it's okay. We're good.
Okay, good. Great. So, yeah, I mean, Dear Evan Hansen, you guys both, I was able to see both of you guys perform in the show, and it was just absolutely breathtaking. Both of you guys' performance. So different, yet so beautiful. Like, both of them obviously made me cry because, that's just what that show does. I literally
built to do that.
Yeah, literally. Like, I would see the show just once a week and I would be drained for the week. I can't imagine doing it 8 shows a week, So kudos to both of you. I can't imagine.
I'm very lucky that I only had to do it for 3 months. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes, very, very lucky. But I mean, killed it, and very lucky to have seen you. So that's kind of crazy that theater camp was kind of born in during Dear Evan Hansen, right?
In that time period.
In that time period, it was our. I think we had both just been like actors for hire from the age of 9 to however old we were when we were doing that.
23, 24.
Yeah, like but I think we had just had these we had just gotten to exercise a single muscle for that period of time, and I think we were both looking for an opportunity to stretch ourselves and flex some more muscles and try something new, and take a little bit more control over something than you can really have as just a performer.
Totally. So theater camp, right? Take me through this process, because y'all, you're about to release a film in the movie theaters in 2 weeks, you know? Like, that's so exciting. Like, and it was born, like, from an idea, and then it turned into this YouTube short film. Like, just talk to me through this process and kind of this journey, because you then had to take it to the film festivals, and, like, talk to me about what it was just like to get this thing up in theaters and globally, I guess.
Well, we, as Noah said, we kind of have this collective, Noah and I and Molly and Nick, with all kinds of inroads and histories. And Molly and I did theater since we were children, and
Yeah.
we'd known Noah, and the three of them had made sketches before we even started making this. And Noah and I did workshops of Alice by Heart with Molly, and Nick and I did improv and sketch comedy in high school together, musical theater. So it was this kind of crossroads of like a love of like improv and sketch and comedy collectives like Christopher Guest and SNL and things like that, and then just a deep, deep like musical theater nerddom. So it made a lot of sense that we would focus in this world in terms of like bringing the tone that we love comedically to the world we know the best and that we want to make fun of because we feel like we are part of it, so we can make fun of it, and also just express our love for it ultimately at the end of the day. And I think when we made the short, it was clear to us that there was more to the story. Like I just think we could feel how well it had worked and how the tone really landed, and it was unlike anything necessarily specifically that we had seen before. So we felt like we really hit something, and took us a little while to come back to it and really properly start to flesh it out. But I think when the pandemic hit, it it made everybody just kind of a little more heart forward than they had been. I think before that, and I think for us it was a very much like by definition passion project. So we all naturally really returned to it and thought like we could really give this a real go, and there's more of a world and a story to develop here. So we wrote it into a feature over the course of like about a year. The four of us together, we wrote it into like a scriptment, which is sort of like a script treatment crossover because it's largely improvised, the film. So it has like lots of alts and jokes and concepts, and every scene is beated out and every narrative beat is decided, and there's some dialogue to begin with.
And then like each character we wrote like Bibles for. So somebody would be cast with a role and we would write them like an entire,
a backstory.
Sometimes helpful and sometimes not. But
just try to protect ourselves.
But writing, yes, everybody had like a big backstory, had like a reason to be,
and a tone and an arsenal of jokes, and they knew where their arc was headed, and they knew it was a very, very heavily outlined, everything short of scripted, but left a lot of room for improvisation, which brings us to the trying to get it made. When you come to financiers and you're like, we want to make a semi-improvised movie that has an original musical at the end with children at a summer camp, like for not that much money. Nobody is sort of like, oh, absolutely, I see the commercial viability of this immediately. It was definitely tricky to find the right people. Noah and Molly did a film called Booksmart that's fantastic, and
Yes.
this company Gloria Sanchez, which is Will Ferrell's company, and obviously Will Ferrell's our collective idol.
Godfather.
And Jessica Elbaum, the woman that runs that company, was a great mentor to Molly and to Noah, and was kind of the first one to say, when you do something, bring it to me. So we brought it to her, and Gloria Sanchez was our first kind of champion. And along with them, we went to many different financiers and studios, some of whom said yes and then dropped out, some of whom said no to begin with, and finally found Picture Start, which is a company studio that helped us make the film. And it was a will they, won't they, all the way up to the very last minute when we were finishing writing the movie and getting ready to go upstate. We got our green light. There's going to be some barking happening in a moment because we have our window washers returning, just as a warning. We got our green light, weeks before the first day of shooting. And we had 19 days to do it.
And then half the money
fell away, and then we had to find it somewhere else.
Another company named Topic
Studios came in and saved the day.
Oh my God.
It was a real
it was a crash course. I mean, we're all first-time filmmakers, and it was a real crash course. And like, if you believe deeply in something and you're passionate about it, you have to be the champions for it, and you have to pivot 8 times a day and just keep changing and adapting. And then
And then in the actual filming of it, that's even more true.
Totally.
Every filmmaking is like basically just creative problem solving.
Exactly.
And then eventually you have a film.
And then we couldn't believe we've had it. And then Nick and Molly went into a hole, our co-directors, and edited it for a few months to try to make the Sundance deadline. And then we submitted the film to Sundance, and they miraculously let us in. And we were like, if this is it and this is the end of the road, like incredible. We made
That
this
is
little
cool.
thing and it went to
Feel
Sundance.
like
Yeah.
cool kids going to Sundance, going to movie festival.
Yeah, like
Right.
we were like theater nerds as cool like film kids.
We were like,
We were
thank
so,
you for having us.
yeah, we were like, we can't believe we're here with like actual cool people.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
And then
my
it
gosh.
exceeded our expectations and played really well there, and they gave us an ensemble award. And Searchlight saw it the very weekend it opened at Sundance and snatched it up immediately and bought it and put it in theaters, which was our ultimate dream. Not just the live experience of theaters, which was our, it's about that live experience, and it's about having a communal comedy experience. That's our favorite films are that way. So our greatest dream was that it would be in person like that. But even on top of that, I think Searchlight was our ultimate dream. They've made all the great, small, weird, funny, heartfelt indies and taken such care of them that we've always loved.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. It's all so well deserved. I mean, the movie is just like, I can't stress. I came on here as soon as I saw the movie and was like, "It's so good." I was laughing, I was crying, I was doing all the things. No, it was just like, it's literally like it's every theater kid's like life in a movie, and but like in a funny, not traumatic way.
Yes.
That's some of us experience. So it's just so relatable. And in the movie, obviously you guys are at theater camp, but you guys are putting on an original musical called Joan Still.
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask because I feel like I've heard y'all talk about Joan or Grandma Joan before. Where is Joan Still? Like, where does that come from? What inspired that title and making of that musical?
I gotta be honest, I really don't remember. I know that
Well, the name Joan was my grandma who passed. Was my mom.
Oh, okay.
So the name was just a little bit of honoring, but I think that the character more is like an amalgam of all of our theater teachers and heroes, and the mother hens of, like, Molly and I went to this place called the Adderley School. Janet Adderley and Kevin, what's his name?
And I went to a theater program called Kevin Kearns. And Kevin Kearns was, just like this guy who was around being like just fostering young creatives.
And Rosie's Theater Kids.
And Rosie's Theater Kids, Rosie
Dude.
McDonald, ran the musical theater program that we did musical theater at in high school.
And then the title is just like all of our favorite, like, self-serious, kind of awkwardly phrased, like too holier than thou concepts of like Joan Comer. So
that's right. There's a loftiness there that we hope will make people laugh.
Oh my god, no, it's hilarious. Every time it's referenced in the movie, it's like everyone just starts laughing especially when I saw it, because we were just a bunch of theater kids seeing the movie. It was great. But since we're on the topic of titles, this may be a silly question, but like for me, it's a serious question, because there are nights where I literally like have arguments with myself about the spelling of theater. How and why did you guys go with the spelling of ER for theater camp?
There is an actual reason, I feel like, that
Nick
would probably know. But I think in general, and in terms of like my just sort of base understanding of theatre versus theater, that like I was told, I think when I was younger, that like tra is a more European spelling. But also there is like a grammatical reason that I'm forgetting right now.
Me too. For me, it's more like it's the less hoity-toity spelling, exactly, I guess. Like the layman would recognize the term theater ER maybe more. If
this movie had been like named by Amos and Rebecca Diane,
it would be called like A Portrait of a Home. It would be like a portrait of a gorgeous artistic home.
Theater camp.
Theatre camp.
Yeah, theatre camp. But I think because it's us and because we wanted to, we want it to be as universal as possible.
But absolutely come for us if you don't agree. Yeah, sound off in the comments. We want to hear why you don't like the title of our movie. Yeah. We want to hear your issues.
Get the buzz out there. Just talk about it. Get it trending on Twitter.
Controversy,
Right. Oh my god, it's so funny. But no, I mean, in the movie, you guys can totally see that you guys are all friends. Like you guys have this really special chemistry, and that goes for like not just I guess just the three of you, between you two and Molly. Obviously Nick isn't in the film. Otherwise, I'd say Nick as well. But the whole ensemble, and in a normal world, in a normal job, it's like, don't keep your work and personal life kind of separate.
Hmm.
But when it comes to like creating art, I feel like that's just like so not true. And I'm curious to hear like your guys' perspective on this, and like how important, especially for this process, was it to create this with your friends and someone that you already had chemistry with, as I know it was a very short process and quick um,
Well, it's
filming
exactly
experience.
that. I think Ben talked a little bit about our inspirations being like the Christopher Guest sort of group of actors that he always leaned on, and like 2009 SNL cast that we like so love and look up to and admire. Um, and I think in coming into a process like this, having the like limited time, funds, limited everything. Um,
Yeah.
and asking people to like come to the woods and like deal with a lot of goose poop and a lot of mosquitoes and a bunch of kids. It's just easier to ask your friends to sort of do that than it is to like they'll probably be the most willing.
Yeah.
And also we have this like beautiful collective of friends that I think we all yearn for spaces to just like play and explore and have fun. And I think it's rare that you get hired to do a job and it feels as like free as you want it to. And so we really, really tried to just curate a space for people to like show up and enjoy and just like have fun and play and feel free and improvise and feel safe to do that and fail in front of people that you can trust and will still love you even if your joke isn't that funny.
Yeah, I think it's not something that one should always do. Like, I don't think it's like, at least for me personally, I think it's important to have spaces professionally that are your own, and then to when the time is right, get to collaborate with those closest to you. But with this particular project, we really felt like we were the ones to depict this world together, and that it was about our shared love of theater, and so much about like our language and why we're friends in the first place. And to have that shorthand, I think, is the only reason the film got made. And I think that the whole kind of some of the sort of like mission statement of why we wanted to make it in the first place, particularly with Molly and Nick, is like to have a space for all of our talented, funny, strange theater adjacent friends to do
Yeah,
something together. Like, it
we're
really was
also
a
really lucky that we do have like our friend group is awesome and that everybody's really talented and everybody is like sort of known in their own little respective like circles or fields or whatever that may look like. And so, leaning on our friends like Owen Thiel and Patti Harrison and Ayo Edebiri and Jimmy Tatro, who all just showed up like completely game, completely down, and I think excited to like do something that felt loose and free and something that they had like real creative control over. So I think we are often actors for hire and are saying other people's words directed by people. It's somebody
Mm.
else's vision, and this was very much
yeah, we wanted
ours, and
to
we
give
gave a lot of people freedom to feel that.
like autonomy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, with you guys kind of like, I guess, calling the shots and kind of seeing this in your vision, like, was it really important to like? I mean, we did the YouTube short in our Pearl studio because that's what a theater camp is in New York because
Yeah,
there are no woods. Like, how important for you guys for like this was it to really like create that space?
huge. I mean, I think that with the financial reality of trying to make this movie, uh, in terms of like the texture that we would be able to afford to build or create, like we had to find a location that did a lot of that for us, because it just so much of like one of our huge inspirations is Stage Door, the documentary about Stage Door, of course. And so like that, pseudo sort of Jewish, like upper, like New York, upstate, East Coast, lake, like feeling, and there's ticks and goose poop and cabins and beautiful sunsets. Like, that's hard to fabricate. Like, there was even a time where we were considering filming at what's more of like a production site, campsite in LA. And I think that we really felt like if we can nail the authenticity of the location and then make small tweaks and changes. Like we had to build out the theater space because it wasn't a performing arts camp, and we had to build those, risers and the lighting grid and stuff like that. So we had to add our flair, certainly, but having the kids up at a real camp and everybody there working together and living there was like that I think you can feel in every frame, and like that wouldn't have been reproducible. So it was like one of the biggest wins to find that camp that wasn't running, that was just sitting there in beautiful Warwick, New York, that we were able to afford to work at.
Yeah, it's sort of like I think sort of like the lead of our film is this
Yeah.
that we found.
It's like Sex and the City. The fifth girl is the city.
Yes. Literally. It's so brilliant though. Like the place is great. It had to have probably like felt like a summer camp, like while you guys were filming.
It did, very
it?
much so.
And also with any youth theater or like school theater, the stakes are so high. Like people because it happens so quickly when you do the show. Like in high school, you rehearse it for like a month, and then you get like 2 nights, and then it's over. So it's like the adrenaline is so unmatched.
You
Even
rehearse
in
it
like
for a month, you rehearse it for like 6 months.
you're right, and then you get 2 nights.
Yeah.
So like the adrenaline is unmatched by any professional experience I've ever had.
Yeah.
So we had those stakes and that adrenaline, so that it really
the
made
way
the
we
camp.
sort of like structured the shoot was that we saved, because we like needed the time to like polish and prepare. We saved the final musical for the last 3 days of filming, and so it did feel like this
final show,
this like final culminating event, emotionally and physically, like for everybody, for the entire crew, who had just been like in and out of these rooms dealing with like classes and teachers and whatever, but then for everybody on set to get to see these musical numbers completely come to fruition was just so satisfying and exciting for everybody.
Totally.
Yeah.
And like Ben was saying, the sort of like emotional stakes of being a child in youth theater and having that like final curtain go down on like your final performance, and the like shrieks of like utter catharsis that just like come out of you, followed by like deep sobs. Yeah, just like screaming, crying, hugging, too much mascara, too much blush, everything running. We got to like really have that and provide that for the kids, who were all at that point dressed in their 70s costumes, watching a 9-year-old Liza and and like a 13-year-old David Geffen just like sob into each other's arms was the ultimate satisfaction for us as curators of this event.
That's so cute. And those kids looked like they were having the time of their lives. I mean, literally, like it shows on screen.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to give them a beautiful experience, and I think that in the mess of the stress and the problem solving and the money and the COVID and the just all the things that come along with making an indie film, what kept us not just on our best behavior, but also just like remembering why we were doing it. Like there's such a purity to having those kids around and wanting to give them an experience that was joyful and challenging in the right ways. I think that they were like the guiding light. So to see them, cry, as Noah was saying at the end, we felt so proud that we had to give them an experience that they won't just look at as like, this was a tough shoot or this was a job. It was like they gave them a summer at camp. So that we felt like regardless of how the film turned out, obviously we had hopes that it would be great. But even if it hadn't been, we'd at least given these kids a really nice experience.
Yeah. They also are amazing.
They're up, so good.
And it was something that we had always thought about, like going back to the short and like casting all of the PPAS kids and we were worried about like kids' abilities to improv. And I think that was like a really, really big
hurdle for the financiers.
Yeah, hurdle for our producers to sort of swallow and trust us that like we could get children to like, carry story and not have jokes written for them and just like be authentically themselves. And we were really lucky to have the help of Bernie Telsey and Christian Charbonnier at Telsey & Co. And they just, they found an incredible crop of kids for us. And we had this like really fun audition process where they sent us like, singing tapes and things. But for callbacks, we sat with them over Zoom and just improvised with them. And it became incredibly apparent incredibly quickly that
all of them could do it.
All of them were going to like improv circles around us.
Right.
There's like,
Yeah.
we have like layers of like shame and years of our own like adult BS that has built up and like walls.
Kids don't have that.
But children just don't possess those things.
They
So
just
they
go
just
for
come
it.
in like completely authentic, ready to rage. They crushed it.
And I mean, like, some of those kids are like already stars. I mean, Luke Islam is a star.
Luke
Alex
Islam is
Ball.
a huge star. Watch this space. Luke Islam is a huge
Yes.
star.
Watch this space.
More to come from Luke Islam. Alexander Bello absolutely crushing on it
Smart.
just like that, and Carolina Change.
I mean, he's in like 3 Broadway shows already. Like, he's,
Unbelievable
yeah,
Kendra
all of
Sanchez,
these kids.
Babysitter's Club.
Mm.
Like they,
Mhm.
yeah, they don't need us.
Yeah, they're also like,
They're already pros.
we'd be like, oh my god, so cute. Like, oh my god, look at their little headshot. And then we'd like look them up on Instagram and they have like 7 times the
200,000
followers of us.
followers.
And we're like, okay.
Yeah. Hilarious. It's crazy. Just like, what social media has kind of changed in that kind of perspective, because it's just like a younger audience,
Right.
But it's so fun to see. Yeah. Luke is a god, like literally so talented. I've got to say, I want to mention, because we talk about this all the time, the kids that we had in the YouTube short, you guys were like our little like camp relationship, and you guys were like the only ones that came out of it. I don't even know if y'all were together when that was happening, like when we did the YouTube
weren't.
short, but
We
now
weren't, but there's this thing where we were friends for 5 years and sort of behaved like we were together, and I just was like stupid about it, and then now finally
And-
we're actually together.
and engaged, like what? So we
There was
love a
like
camp
one more
relationship.
life to be
Do the ring
lived.
thing.
Oh, sorry.
Do the ring thing.
There
No,
was
the
one more
nails.
life to be
Stunning.
lived before we were like ready to like. I think we both recognized that there was like an exciting, potentially very meaningful, lifelong, maybe, relationship like at stake or like on the table. And
Yeah.
I think we were both a little fearful of that, and also wanted to like take the time to
Be young.
be young and live and make mistakes and date people we shouldn't and
Come together when we were ready to.
Yeah, the stars aligned. Y'all were meant to be. It's so cute. I've got to talk to you guys now about just like what you're up to now, because like honest to God, like I don't know how you guys sleep. Noah, we love seeing you in The Good Doctor. Ben, you're on Broadway. A Tony Award season just wrapped, filming Merrily We Roll Along for like the next 19 years or whatever. Like it's just a crazy. Like, how do you guys just like see each other? Like, how do you sleep? Like, what is like? How do you manage all of the craziness?
honestly there's a moment right now the writers are striking
Yeah.
and because of that the Good Doctor is on a sort of like indefinite hiatus.
Mhm.
So I'm really just trying to like soak up this time as much as possible because the Good Doctor shoots in Vancouver, and so we have spent like upwards of like 5 months apart at the very beginning of my being on that TV show because there was a pandemic and there was a 2-week quarantine that was necessary in order to enter Canada. So it just like kept us apart for a really long time. And now it's just a moment where like I have a little bit of free time and I just get to be for a while there. I just got to be like Tony wife, and that was a thrill.
Obsessed.
And now we're just sort of like launching into the release of the film. So while
Yeah.
Ben is doing the show once, sometimes twice a day, we're all going off and just doing Q&As and made a big press junket the other day. And
Yeah, I mean, my favorite lifestyle is doing a piece of theater and getting in a routine. And I think our dream was always eventually to just like live in New York and not be living like chapter to chapter. So this is the first, while it is still sort of a chapter, it's just the first period of time that we just feels like we're kind of hitting our status quo, like our home base. And it's been
Sure.
really, really nice.
we just redid the living room.
Yeah, we just redid the living room.
Yes.
Um,
That's all.
and yeah, it's been nice to do parade at night, which is very difficult and fulfilling but upsetting, and then get to do something so full of joy and light, talking about theater camp and watching people laugh, and
Yeah.
it's a really lucky combination.
Healthy juxtaposition.
Yeah. Ben, I have to say, I was at the show yesterday, matinee, when we had to stop.
Oh my God.
Um, Craziness. Someone, I guess, like passed out in the audience, and they needed oxygen, and paramedics came. I mean,
Yes.
like we were, and then it started back up during the funeral song, and I was just like, "Oh my God, this is so like, this is like crazy."
It was very
Just like,
poetic.
yeah, I was just like, "Oh my God,"
I
but
think we've heard she's fine. I think she had some sort of panic related, just like pass out. Like I think she just got
yeah,
a little. Her heart was racing, and I think she passed out for a moment. But I think she's fine. She was already responsive when she was leaving, and
yeah,
so we stopped and for about like 15, 20 minutes, and they waited for EMS to come and take her out, and then we tried to start as like gracefully as we could. But it was definitely weird, and everybody was like a little shaken. But it was nice that the audience stayed very in it with us. It was great.
yeah. No, yeah, I didn't even mean to like mention that, but like more of that story was what is happening at Parade is so beautiful, and you guys obviously won Best Revival, which is super exciting. What you and Michaela are doing is just so good. Everyone go see
Thank you.
Parade. 6 weeks left.
Yeah, five and
Um,
a half now.
yeah, so you don't want to miss it. It's just so good, and I love everything going on. I have to tell you guys, I was actually at one of the. This is like kind of off topic, but ADHD. Um, I was at the Reverie concert where you came out at MSG, and you came out with Ben to join him with "I Want to Dance with You," and I was just like, one of my all-time favorite moments of like a live performance. I want to see you both perform on stage together all the time. I'm just obsessed.
Well, there
Just a
might be an
couple.
upcoming opportunity in the fall. Will be announced soon. That in New York there might be a little one night situation that Noah pops his head into, but we'll see.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. I'll probably be there, honestly. I adore both of you, and your talents are just so incredible.
Thank you.
Um yeah, oh my God, of course. Can we do like a fun little rapid fire round of just
Yes.
like
Fine.
theater questions? Okay, cute. Um we'll start out. Okay, who wants to go first? Let's set this up first.
I'll go first.
Do you want to? Okay,
Whoa.
it's going to be the same questions for both. You just have to decide who's going to
Oh
answer
well, then it's
first.
harder for me because I can't pick the same thing. So you do go first. That'll be fun. I love
Okay,
games more than him.
amazing. So, what is your favorite warm up?
I like the ping sniffs. Sinus
Mm,
busters.
yes, always good for allergies. Ben?
I like a Hung Mung Young. Similarly, kind of trying to crack
Yeah.
this like mask and
Bust the sinus, baby.
get the mucus draining.
Yeah, get it flowing. Make it juicy.
Obsessed. Juicy. Okay, what's your dressing room essential? Like something you need to have in your dressing room?
Something I need to have in my dressing room. Cozy footwear.
Ooh,
A humidifier going full blast.
period. Gotta keep it moist. Okay, good question here. Whose proposal was most surprising?
Mine.
Ben's to me. Absolutely.
Really?
My proposal was sort of like a weeks long craft project where he wasn't allowed to enter the office because
Because he was like working on clues. He sent me on like a scavenger hunt, so he was working on clues and like materials for the week. So it was like.
But I
He
think
wasn't-
he was confused as like what was going
No,
on.
yeah, I was
I'd sort of like exit the space like covered in glitter glue, and I'd be like, "Don't go in there."
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I didn't
That's
know what it was. I just knew that it was coming. Period. But I think I threw Noah off the scent well enough for our first one that he really didn't think it was happening that day or even in that week.
I did not.
Oh my God, I love it. What is your favorite way to rejuvenate your mind and body after a long week?
We love to hike. We love to
We do
go.
love
We love
that.
to go have outdoor moments together, whether that's like beach moment or hike moment.
Yeah, I think especially when you're like doing a musical or you're in New York or you're like working in a theater, it can feel like you're sort of in a cave all the time. And so a nice just little reconnection with nature is always a good thing. Even if it's just like going into Riverside Park, my favorite park in New York, and
It's like laying around.
just laying around, go to the dog park, you know,
Totally. That's
With George.
in the Eleanor Roosevelt Monument on 72nd Street.
Yes.
Really connect
Amazing.
there.
Do you okay, this may be a tough question for Ben, but I gotta ask Noah, what's your favorite Ben Platt song?
That's so hard. The first one that came to mind was Rain. I remember Ben sending me. We had like a night where all of our friends were hanging out, and it ended up like just the two of us. And he had just written it, and he had just gotten like a master of it or something from his producer, from the music producer who produced it. And I was like, I want to hear it. And he was like, well, I don't want to like play for you now. I was like, I have like a long walk uptown. Why don't you just send it to me, and I'll let you know my thoughts. And he gave it to me, and I think walked from like 60th to like, 96, where I was living with my mom at the time. And I think I listened to it like 6 or 7 times in a row and was just like stomping the streets at like 1 a.m. alone on the Upper West Side. And so I'll always like have a soft spot for that song in my heart. But also the ones about me I like too.
Of course.
I want to love you, but I don't.
No, they're all so
about you.
That's gotta clarify. We gotta make sure. I didn't mean to start any fights here. No couple
No,
spots.
no fights.
You have a favorite album?
Of my own songs.
Yeah.
There's a song on my upcoming album that we don't know what it is yet or when it is yet, but that I'm working on. That is my favorite song I've ever written, and it's about
What's it
Noah.
called?
I'm not gonna say
Why not?
because I don't want to share that yet. But it's about Noah. Shocker, and it's I think my favorite. I feel very proud of it. Okay.
It's called Noah. We're calling it Noah.
Stay
Actually,
tuned.
the album is actually going to be called Noah. So
Right. Of course. Okay. Okay. We have to end the game on what is your favorite theater camp memory?
of our own or working on the film?
No, like of your own, like personal, like growing up doing theater camp.
That's a great question. I'd say one that I talk about most often. It's not even really like well, my sister was at Frenchwoods at the time. My sister was cast as Mungo Jerry, I think, like 3 times in various theater camps. I don't know why. She just has that sort of energy. She just has a little like
Amazing.
like sneaky cat. But I was seeing her
I
play
love that for her.
Mungo Jerry in a production of Cats at Frenchwoods, and there's a space at Frenchwoods where the stage is circular and the orchestra pit is in the middle of the stage. And the kids were doing the cats were doing this sort of like turn leap section around the pit. And one of the girls who was ensemble cat fully fell into the pit and didn't just like leapt into the pit, but leapt like directly onto the drum set. And so it was humiliating, obviously, but then there was like a 15-20 second like musical payoff that happened as well, where like she fell and it was like cymbal crash, like the cymbal fell, and like all of the like of the orchestra, you know what I mean? And then there's no exit from the pit unless you like crawl out of it. And so then these men had to come on stage and like lift her out of the pit, and I remember it being very funny and very dramatic, and I hope she's okay. But
I love that that's your favorite. It's hilarious. That's hilarious. Ben, do you have one?
I know.
It's kind of theater. It's like adjacent. I went to Jewish summer camp, and then like theater youth programs. But I'm choosing like the more camp vibe. We have this thing.
All theater camps are Jewish, but not all
Jewish camps are theater. That's right. That's right.
Right.
It doesn't just say only Jews should do theater camp, because there should all kinds of kids should do theater camp. But we have this thing called Color War, or in Hebrew it's Maccabia, that we do at my Jewish summer camp, which is like the whole camp gets divided into 4 teams. 4 colors, and there's captains that are from the staff. So I spent 10 years as a camper, like dreaming of when I was going to be a captain, and then I was a captain of the red team, which
Yes.
was a big responsibility. And it's like it's a Jewish camp, so like it's sports competitions, but like the most points are not from the sports; it's from the cheers that you do in the entrances for each set of events, which means you have to organize your team of about 100 kids to do some sort of like performance, skit, number, what have you.
Is it the opening of the Olympics? Is it the Olympics?
Yeah, the Olympic opening ceremonies, like you do little versions of that with
Yeah.
your team. So that's what I'm in. That's why I'm captaining. I'm not gonna like run a race. So I
We're here to put on a show.
That's
honey.
right. And so we did win mostly because of our point jumps with those entrances. And the best one was there's this thing called in the Jewish tradition in Passover called the 4 sons, which is like a thing you talk about at the Seder for Passover, which is like how to explain something to 4 different kinds of children. It's like how to pass on to the next generation in 4 different with like 4 archetypes of different kinds of learners and kids. So we basically did this whole conceptual art piece about like how to explain what red is to 4 different kinds of kids, and each one had like a musical number attached to it. For like how to like for the kid who's like the more visceral kid, we just did this like crazy like paint dance with red paint, and it was like it's about the feeling. And for one kid it was like you explained that it's about history, and we did like an Adam and Eve thing with the apple. Like it was very high concept, and I feel really proud of it. It's better than the film theater camp.
Obsessed. Oh my god. It's okay, Ben. You can say you were the choreographer, not the captain. It's okay. We
I
still
was the
love you.
part wise. I also like creative director, I would say.
Okay, of course. That's hilarious. Oh my god, I love it so much. Well, that's our little rapid fire game, and yeah, it was just being silly, and that's so. It's more about you guys and not your careers. But going back to your careers, I want to ask you, I guess, a final question because I gotta let you guys go soon.
Gotta eat our
now-
salads.
I know. Go eat the salads. But I have to ask you. I mean, you mentioned how like you've gone on this journey for so long, and you are theater kids. And I'm curious now, like in your career, you as you've gotten older and you start to tell stories of marriage and children and like this more mature kind of content. How has that kind of like I don't know, like impacted the way you look at characters or you take on a role and stuff like that?
I had a moment where I showed up for like my first day of filming The Good Doctor, and I honestly I played a child for so long, and I
Yeah.
played a teenager on television when I was in my 20s.
Mhm.
And when I booked this job, I was like just coming out of the pandemic. I looked very overgrown. I had like a beard for the first time. I had long hair. And I showed up and I was like, I think I want a beard for this character. I think I want to like start the process of like convincing America that I am an adult and that I'm like done playing children. And it felt like this very this very like concrete like crossroad in my life. And it felt like an active decision on my part. Because I think the producers of the show were like, no. And I had to really fight for it, and I had to really fight to like prove to them that I could do something else and that I could evolve, and I think a lot of people, especially in this business, like to keep you in a little box, and although it wasn't like a major box to break out of, I had to like actively really set my mind to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think similarly because I was a child actor, I've been working for so long and playing young people, and less so with like roles and more so just like always being as Noah says, like an actor for hire, or like just like being part of someone else's vision. You wonder when you're getting older, like when am I going to feel like the grown up to the point where like I can be the one who's the boss, and I can be the one that writes the story and be the creative controller and like have vision, and like you wait for this like switch. And then I think for me it's been all about realizing that like we never are adults, like we're just like children who've been here longer. Like I think it's like you just like if we were fully adults, like we would never have made theater camp. Like why would you?
And there were a lot of times when filming this movie that like we would look around and we'd be like,
we're the ones who have to have the answers. Yeah. So I think it's about just like embracing when you feel internally ready for that shift and not looking for someone else to tell you that it's time to make that shift.
Nor is there any right time for that shift.
No, it's just when you feel ready.
Yeah. And I think we'll just continue to sort of evolve and take on more challenges and, you know, become the sort of, we get to like take the reins a little bit.
And then stay
become
tuned
Yeah.
for like 10 years from now when we open our own joint actual theater camp, and
Yeah.
everybody listening can
Period.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to shape their
Obsessed.
minds here.
Well, if it's anything like the movie theater camp, it's going to be iconic and probably the best theater camp around. So it's going to be called Adirondacks, guys. Just
Yes.
making sure everyone knows.
Adirondacks.
Yes, Adirondacks. It's so good. It's just so brilliant. All of you guys, you guys are just so funny, and so thrilled to chat with you guys today. Congrats on theater camp. Everyone needs to go see it. It's going to be in theaters July 14th. So you don't want to miss it. And go see Parade while you can for 5.5 weeks. Thank you guys. You have so much to take a bow for.
'Cause if I'm gonna dance, I wanna dance with you.